Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening and welcome to Lighting the Void. We are broadcasting all the way from the deep and dirty South in Forest Tower Studios. I'm Joe Root, and this is Lighting the Void. Voices for verity in this crazy realm of polarity. It is Wednesday night, September the 15th, as the moon is waning on into midnight, on its way to the new moon. Let's start this show with a visualization. I need you to fire up your chakras, sync both hemispheres of your brain together, and shoot your magical beam of light through your third eye tonight with us as we peer into the void. The call-in number when we open the phones up is 1-800-588-0335. And we are live on the website, and the website is lightingthevoid.com. We're also live on the network, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, which is located at several places: TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM. I've submitted this thing to everywhere. It's everywhere on the internet, and there's a call to listen line. Say, God forbid something happens to your internet, but you got it. It's 701-719-3971. Tonight, Monroe Institute outreach trainer and chairman of Hemi-Sync is going to be with us here, Garrett Stevens. Now, Hemi-Sync, just in case you don't know, is a binaural beat technology which allows you to easily access and hold specific states of consciousness for extended periods of time. Now, if you ever have listened to any of these products, or like I have, you may experience within minutes expanded states that would otherwise require years of meditative practice to achieve. Now, tonight, this is going to be a vital discussion because this is what the show is all about. I think it's time for us to explore consciousness effectively, to get the answers that we need, to become what William Buhlman calls or says effective explorers of consciousness. Now, Hemi-Sync, since its inception, has been one of the most talked about ways of effective consciousness exploration on the planet. And Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens, is here to talk about the future of consciousness exploration and Hemi-Sync with us. But it's been helping people for a little more than 50 years become effective explorers of consciousness. Now, I do want to thank those of you who have donated to the show, but I want to say tonight is, like I said, it's one of the reasons why we do the show, because that's what the void is all about. The questions, why are we here? Who am I? What is this thing about? What is consciousness? Let's shed some light on this, and that's what we're going to try to do. And like I said, I want to say thank you to all who have supported, whether it's been donations, social media shares. I can't thank you guys enough. Your feedback, your instant messages on Twitter, just everything that you guys do for this show. I really appreciate it. And this show is also brought to you by Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio, get your free audiobook, grab a t-shirt from the website, use the Amazon portal if you want to help out the show, or donate, do any of those things. The chat rooms are over on Spreaker and Discord. You can get to the Discord link through the Fringe FM /chat, fringe.fm /chat, or lightingthevoid.com /chat. You can text the show at 501-777-5631. And sign up to our newsletter. Become a Void Walker. It's free. It only comes out once a month. We don't spam you or anything like that. So it's a cool thing to be a part of. and we're growing, and I can't thank you guys enough. Now, Garrett Stevens is with us. Now, he is a certified Monroe Institute outreach trainer and the chairman of Hemi-Sync. He has long held a keen interest in consciousness exploration, which he enjoys sharing with others through his workshops and building communities. Previously, he had a lengthy career in finance after graduating from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, and he lives with his family in the Los Angeles area. And you can check out his website at Conscious Knows. He's going to have to correct me on that one, .com, and Hemi-Sync, which is Hemi-Sync.com. Is it Conscious News is what it is, right? ConsciousNews.com?
Right. Yeah, it's the Greek word, Nous. That site's actually more for my workshop activities. Hemi-Sync is really kind of the main deal now. But I was a trainer and running workshops before I was running Hemi-Sync.
Well, look, I got to tell you, since I started messing with Hemi-Sync, this is how it happened for me. Obviously, the Robert Monroe books. Then I'm like, what's this Hemi-Sync thing about? You know, then you go to the website, and then you download. You can go to the website, by the way, and download a trial, like it's like a free version of it. If you sign your name and email address, and that is the first time I ever felt those vibrations that everybody talked about using those original free versions that you guys give away on your website there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
The vibrational state through the free version. Yeah, we call that the way of Hemi-Sync.
Right, yeah. And once you realize that it's real, then your whole world changes. It did for me, anyways, because it wasn't just talk anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's no substitute for firsthand experience. Beliefs are fine, but at some point, you have to take responsibility for your own consciousness and your own development, your own growth. There's really nothing like direct experience.
So I usually, when I start the show, I try to jump right into the meat. But it's usually a bad question, honestly. But I really am curious how such an intelligent, bright person with an educational background like yourself got into this field, consciousness.
Something so crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a long story, I guess. I think the first time I ever heard of Hemi-Sync was when I was flying back from college in the mid-'90s. And, those in-flight magazines they used to have, I think it was called what was it called? Like Sky Mall, I think.
Okay.
And I think there's a Hemi-Sync ad in there. And, it had like the neuro map of the kind of incoherent brain waves and then the coherent brain waves when your brain's on Hemi-Sync. And it was, talking about all these things it could do. Relaxation, expanded states of awareness, better sleep, better concentration. And I thought, wow, that looks really cool. I wonder if it actually works. I think I kind of put it out of my head and didn't think about it again for years. But that's the first I've ever heard of it. My kind of, path leading up to it, took many twists and turns. I think the second time I ever heard of it was when it was in my early 20s and I was home for Christmas. And, my dad was into this stuff. And so one year I came home and he had like a whole bunch of Hemi-Sync CDs. I think it was the entire Gateway Experience set. Gateway Experience, it's kind of in 6 waves. It's kind of the core set of exercises that we produce. And it mimics the Gateway Voyage, which is a 5-day, 6-night residential retreat at Monroe Institute, which is the nonprofit that Bob Monroe founded, where you can go and have various types of experiences, adventures in consciousness, ranging from expanded states of awareness to out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, psychokinesis, runs the whole gamut. So anyway, Gateway Experience is based on the Gateway Voyage, and that's the foundational program at the Institute. And so I think my dad showed them to me, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I remembered seeing it from the In-Flight magazine. I was going to try it while I was home, but I didn't. So more years went by, many more years actually. And so I took quite a few left turns when I graduated college. I went to work on Wall Street for a number of years. Was kind of a foot soldier in the war of greed. And yeah, so became very engrossed in the physical material world. You know, was very rational, analytical, very left-brained. I was an equity research analyst for a hedge fund for about 12 years.
But you were still kind of thinking about this in the back of your mind.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. Finally, my father died in 2009. And when he died, we were actually not on very good terms. I wanted to make it right. I was kind of feeling like he was still close by. I kind of felt like I was communicating with him, but that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to actually go and see him. And I just had this feeling like, I could do it. There's got to be, some way I could do it. And at the time, I was actually listening to a different podcast. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast. Okay. He's a big enthusiast of float tanks.
Right.
And so I found a float tank out here in Venice Beach, and I stopped by one day after work. And so, you're in like 2,000 pounds of dissolved salt, right? And they heat the water temperature to something like 95 degrees. And it's totally dark, so it's like a sensory deprivation chamber. And so you start to lose your sense of where your physical boundaries end and where the water begins. When you're sitting on that salt, it suspends you. So your body's not using all this energy trying to support and balance itself. It's not fighting gravity as hard. And so that creates all kinds of interesting kind of psychodynamic things going on inside your head. But after about an hour and a half of that, nothing was happening for me. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to get out of here. But as I went to move, I realized I was paralyzed. I could not move. Yeah. And so these vibrations started. Like they started in my chest. And at first, I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was going to die the same way my dad did. But then it spread. It went into my belly and my head and my whole body. Before you knew it, I was shooting out the top of my head and like traveling it at what felt like a very high rate of speed through some type of wormhole or tunnel or vortex. I don't even know. But
so you just got launched out. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just felt like I was traveling really, really far at a high rate of speed. And very quickly, I began to fear that I was dying. And as soon as that fear kicked in, wham, I was back in my body. And so I kind of got out of that, amazed at what had happened, but also kind of pissed at myself because, I realized that this, I hit this fear barrier and it kind of messed up my experience.
Yeah.
But I became obsessed with getting out of body, and that kind of became my thing. And so I studied all these books. I learned to relax and create kind of this mind awake, body asleep state, basically a trance state that most OB practitioners use as kind of the starting point for getting out. And did some more research and realized that this guy, William Buhlman, was giving a workshop at Monroe Institute. And I thought, Monroe Institute, I've heard of that before. And I started doing some research on that, and it was like, Bob Monroe, he created Hemi-Sync. That's what they use there. And then I thought, that rings a bell. And so I went out to my garage because I had all of my father's stuff stored in my garage now. I kind of inherited all of it. Started going through boxes, and boom, there it was. All three of Bob's books, Journeys Beyond the Body, Far Journeys, Ultimate Journey, and the entire Gateway Experience CD set. And so I thought, man, this must be a sign. And so that was 2010. And that was how I first got involved with Hemi-Sync.
Wow. What an experience, man. And so you started going through the programs and stuff, and did you have any more experiences after that, like the one you had in the tank?
Yeah, I got pretty adept at getting out of body. And then eventually, the vibrations kind of got less and less. And, I always kind of, everyone's experience is different and kind of unique to them. Most people, I think, when they go out of body, have kind of what's a classical out of body experience. And so they'll sort of roll out of their body and they'll be in kind of like an astral realm. Mm-hmm. And from there it takes, and so the astral realm looks very similar to the physical realm. Things are just, maybe, the mirror in your bedroom is on, the west wall instead of the east wall. Things are just a bit different. There are some cues that kind of tip you off that things are a bit different. But then it takes a lot of work to kind of get into the higher vibrational realms. I seem to always go straight to the higher realms, and it took me some work to kind of get back to the astral. So anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there. But after some period of time, I seemed to go classically out of body less and less. And I started having experiences in terms of, traveling as a point of consciousness, or just kind of simply shifting into sort of a different mode of experience. And reading Bob's books, that seemed to be kind of what happened to him after time as well. And so the work that I focus on now, just kind of for my own personal growth, is a bit different. But it started as an obsession with getting out of body, and that's kind of how I came to find Hemi-Sync as well. So Bob Monroe, he was unusual in that he was one of those guys that just kind of naturally rolled out of his body.
Yeah.
He was actually a very successful businessman before he kind of got into any of this stuff. Kind of similar to me. But he was in radio. And so he was behind a lot of the popular radio shows of the time, in the 1940s, various quiz shows and dramas, the names of which escape me. But he started kind of spontaneously going out of body when he was about 40 years old. And so this was in like the mid-50s. And so, he thought something was very wrong with him. He went to see doctors. He went to see psychiatrists. He wasn't sure if he was dying. He wasn't sure what was going on. And like in the mid-50s, this was not polite conversation. It was not okay to be talking about this in New York City and, certain circles where, people are educated, they're moneyed, it's not cocktail conversation. And so he kind of had to deal with it on his own. But Bob was also a bit of a polymath. He was good with machines. He was an amateur pilot. He had a lot of facility with music, from what I understand. I believe he also graduated high school at like 16 years old. But kind of later in his career, he became interested in the possibility of learning while sleeping. And he was trying to facilitate this with sound waves. And through researching this, he realized that he could actually induce out-of-body states in regular people and create out-of-body states that were much like his own. And so this kind of gave rise to Hemi-Sync. And it's done through what's called a binaural beat technology. Most of your listeners probably know what that is, but
yeah, a lot of people did do it. They did it after, but you guys trademarked it. You guys were the ones that came up with it, or rather, Bob and his staff. I know Thomas Campbell was there when they did it, and it's just a fascinating ride to read and listen about all of that stuff. It is very innovative. I see what happened to you, because the material world just wasn't gonna do it for you, right? Obviously you're a successful business guy, but you wanted to get into something that was like this. And I think we all can say that we really appreciate that you did that. I wish more successful businessmen would get into innovation of consciousness, and I hope they are. Are they? That's a good question. Do you think they are nowadays?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think, having gone to, having been on kind of a certain track where, people kind of mark their success in life by, where they went to school or where they worked or, how much money they made, and actually how little free time they have. Not being busy and overscheduled actually becomes a marker of importance, of significance. Lots of those folks, I think, actually lead these lives of quiet desperation. Their experience of life is very narrow, very constricted, and very dull. And, underneath that, there is this just knowing that something is missing or that something is wrong. And so they'll try to fill that hole with buying more stuff, through various forms of self-medication, through various diversions and pleasures, whether it be, drugs or sex or even things like travel. It can be a variety of things that kind of take them out of that incompleteness, that lack of wholeness. And the answers are inside. They're through accessing these other states of consciousness. And that is really kind of what I'm trying to make my life service. And it's always been, Hemi-Sync's mission. And so it's my great honor to try to take that into the years ahead and sort of bridge the generations.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I'm glad I'm getting to talk to you about this, because these are the things that we're curious about, and when William Buellman talked to you on your first, you are a host of the Hemi-Sync podcast too, which I am. Yeah. Everybody really go check that out. I mean, you talked to William Buellman, Dean Radin, Deepak Chopra. Man, I mean, those are some big names, and it ain't about the names. It's about moving this forward. Like I talk about magic and stuff on the show, and not to try to freak people out, but to say, hey, look at what these people are doing, and it's working. They wouldn't keep doing it if it wasn't working. And I think we just need more people that are doing what you're doing now. And in the market itself, do you see more people taking notice of this? Is there, a market increase in consciousness exploration?
Well, I think Bob was way ahead of his time. Mm-hmm. And actually now I think might be the right time. And, you see some signs of it. I mean, there are apps such as Calm and Headspace that, have millions of downloads. And, the exercises are just 10 minutes long, and they don't really have any audio technology that makes it easier to meditate. They're just simple guided meditations. I just think you see a growing awareness of, this lack of satisfaction with modern life that I was describing, with materialism. And that's starting to come to the fore. And, I think we're in a stage, kind of as humanity, where we face many troubles, many seemingly intractable problems. And I'm personally pretty skeptical of the possibility of any sort of ideological or political solution to solve these problems. I think the answer is really in getting more people to do this type of work, inner work, consciousness exploration, and discovering who they really are. And so, Bob's marching orders were get it out there. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And do you see what are some of the future plans that you have for Hemi-Sync? I know you guys are doing outreach programs. You're coming up with more products every day. I remember one of the last downloads I got was William Buellman's course that he did under Hemi-Sync. And when I go to the website, it's like, man, they're covering everything. You guys got programs for everything. And is that what you're going to continue to do, is just find more subjects and tones to go with those programs?
Yeah. I think we've got the subjects pretty well covered. But, I think there is a lot of opportunity through technology to get this out to more people. And so right now we're investing pretty heavily in that. We've unveiled kind of basic versions of an app that are both in the Apple Store and on Google Play now. It's called Hemi-Sync Flow. And in the next couple of months, there'll be an even more robust version available. But I think technology will offer more and more ways for people to access consciousness and engage in self-discovery as the years unfold. And so without giving too much away, that's very much where our focus is. Now, if you're if you're looking to actually make a difference in the world, to actually make a dent in some of these problems that I've been alluding to, you have to reach a lot of people. So, how many people in the world are actually doing some type of daily meditative practice right now? Right. I don't know, but I would think it's in the tens of millions, maybe the hundreds of millions, at the most. But if you got to like 1 billion people, then you really might start to move the needle. So, and it's not all going to be Hemi-Sync, but there's, I think, a growing consciousness community that is trying to get this stuff out there. And, I think that's where all the promise lies.
Yeah, it definitely makes life something more grand. If you ask me, it makes it more like I look forward to the next event that I may happen, whether we're going to talk about in the next segment, but it isn't always an out-of-body experience, but yet that's what everybody's trying to get. But there's so many other states of consciousness that we need to be aware of and take control of, and you guys try to help with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can have hugely profound experiences without classically going out of body. And I'll look forward to getting more into that in the next segment. But you're right. I mean, there is a huge fascination with getting out of body, and you see it, reflected in pop culture now too, which I think is a good sign. If you look at some of the recent, Hollywood movies, like, the Doctor Strange movie, for instance, I mean, it kind of hugely sensationalizes astral projection. Or the out-of-body experience. Right. Bob Monroe was actually credited with coining that term, by the way. But I mean,
the OBE,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, OBE. But I think there's a huge appetite for that right now.
I know there is. I mean, I can tell you, especially from the growth of this audience as well. But I remember Bob Monroe saying that in his book, because he didn't want it to, the word astral travel seemed to be associated with the occult, and he was trying to take a scientific approach and didn't want to be thrown into that category at first.
Very much
so.
so.
It seemed like. But go ahead, sorry.
He was very much into that and tried using technical, clinical, scientific terminology when and wherever possible.
Right, exactly. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these different states of consciousness. We'll also talk about the out-of-body experience and a little bit more about Hemi-Sync. We come back with Garrett Stevens right after these words, guys.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News for The Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Scientists cannot rule out alien life on Jupiter after a shocking discovery. In a stunning scientific discovery, researchers have found water clouds inside Jupiter's Great Red Spot, raising the prospect that life may exist on the planet. Jupiter's Great Red Spot, a storm that has been continuously observed since 1830, still remains a mystery to NASA and much of the scientific community. Water may play a critical role in Jupiter's dynamic weather patterns, so this will help advance our understanding of what makes the planet's atmosphere so turbulent. You could read more of this interesting story at thenewyorkpost.com. The hunt for dark matter is taking place under a mountain. David D'Angelo wasn't always interested in dark matter, but now he's at the forefront of the hunt to find the most elusive particle in the universe. About an hour outside of Rome, there is a dense cluster of mountains known as Gran Sasso d'Italia. Renowned for their natural beauty, the Gran Sasso are a popular tourist destination year-round. It is here in the cavernous hall, thousands of feet beneath the earth, that the 43-year-old D'Angelo works on a new generation of experiments dedicated to hunt for dark matter particles, an exotic form of matter whose existence has been hypothesized for decades but never been proven experimentally. Dark matter is thought to make up about 27% of the universe, characterizing this exclusive substance as one of the most profound problems in contemporary physics. You can read more of this interesting story at motherboard.vice.com. And a man builds a UFO landing pad in Argentina. Warner Gisili constructed the landing site after claiming to have received a telepathic message from aliens. Consisting of a circle of white and brown rocks shaped like a star, the unusual landing pad measures approximately 48 meters in diameter and is situated in the small town of Cachai in the province of Salta. You could read more of this interesting story at unexplainedmysteries.com. And a Florida family calls the sheriff over a Bigfoot encounter. Out of Parrish, Florida, a family in Manatee County says they came across an unidentified biped. The mother of the family told the BFRO investigator that they were driving on Highway 62 when they encountered the mysterious creature at 5:15 a.m. Quote, "We were driving home from an all-night fishing trip," she said about the July 2017 encounter. "This creature waited for the car ahead of us to pass and run across between our two cars." The woman said her husband also saw the creature. She described it as dark in color, huge and fast, and running upright. She added that it didn't have the shoulder motion that humans have when they run. You can read all the details of this story at cryptozoologynews.com. And now for this week's fun fact. Male students enrolled at Brigham Young University actually need a doctor's note to grow a beard. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. And remember, you can save a life. Don't drive and text.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on the Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, the Fringe FM. Shifthead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. And purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Don't forget the show's here for you Monday night through Thursday night, live on the Fringe FM and lightingthevoid.com. Starts at 9 p.m. Pacific every night. And we're here with the Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens. And we're talking about consciousness, how to become effective consciousness explorers using this technology of Hemi-Sync, which is has helped me. You guys have heard me talk about it. And what we were talking about before the break is we talked about your backstory and how you got here. But like when I had this first etheric experience, or I call it etheric, where you, like you said earlier, Garrett, where everything was kind of, I had the vibration state, I rolled out of body, and I turned around and saw myself sleeping, and I was so excited that I did it. I didn't get to move around much. I ended up back in my body, but I've been trying to get back there ever since, And ever since that happened, I have noticed these other states of consciousness, and even using some Hemi-Sync programs, that it's like this is a vast world that we just don't know about. And so, taking it slow is probably not a bad idea. Do you agree?
Yeah. Certainly, well, just on kind of that first point, I mean, our everyday conscious experience is just kind of the tippy tip of the iceberg. And we have a variety of fears and belief systems that can often inhibit our experience of other states of consciousness or other states of being. And releasing those fears and those belief systems can sometimes create crisis if it's not done carefully or slowly. And so, that process is different for everyone. And so from that perspective, I would say there's no rush, take your time. And just kind of take the attitude of an explorer. You want to find out for yourself. Dogma and beliefs are no longer going to be any good for you. You want firsthand experience, and let that be your guide.
Now I want to talk about the Gateway program. Now this is one of the biggest programs that you have on the website, and this is the and correct me if I'm wrong here, but Robert Monroe inducted this, right? Started the Gateway program.
Yep.
And if you go through this, which I still haven't gone through that program, but if you go through that, do you experience all these different states? Because I noticed there's different titles of different waves and stuff.
Yeah. So, it might be good to just kind of go through a quick background of how Hemi-Sync works.
Okay.
So Hemi-Sync is a binaural beat-based technology. And basically what that means is it puts in a frequency in your left ear and a slightly different frequency in your right ear. And then your brain makes a third frequency out of the difference between those two. So, for instance, if you put 100 hertz in your left ear and 104 in your right, your brain is going to make 4 hertz. So that's the binaural beat. Now, why does that matter? Why don't you just put 4 hertz directly into your ear? Well, it's because the human brain actually can't hear anything under 20 to 30 hertz. Maybe more like 30 hertz if you're a younger person, a teenager, closer to 20 hertz if you're an adult like you and me. And so you basically have to trick your brain into hearing that frequency. And so why is that desirable? So generally adults, when they're walking around, going to work, doing their day-to-day, they're in some range of beta brain waves. And so beta can be a pretty broad range. It can range down into kind of like the low teens up to like 50 or 60 hertz. When you get into the higher beta frequencies, you're usually in a pretty high stress state. Your body is stimulating its sympathetic nervous system. It's injecting your body with adrenaline and cortisol, and you feel stressed. When you get into kind of a lower beta range, that can be conducive. You can have, deep conversation, you can focus, you can concentrate. So, I'd like to think that you and I are probably operating somewhere in there right now. Below that is alpha, which is a state of relaxation. And that's kind of 7 to 10 hertz. So there you need a binaural beat to stimulate that brainwave pattern because your brain can't process it directly. It can't hear it. And then below alpha is theta. That's sort of 4 to 7 hertz. And theta is a very interesting state because it's where hypnagogia occurs. Hypnagogia is that moment kind of going into sleep where you're in kind of like a twilight state. It's also the area coming out of sleep, which is called hypnopompic. And so theta is a very useful jumping off point for exploration of consciousness. Then below theta is delta, which is like 0 to 4 hertz, and that's generally a deep sleep state. So Bob Monroe, he developed these various combinations of binaural beats that correspond to specific states of consciousness, and he called those focus levels. So over the years, there have been countless people that have ripped off Bob Monroe and Hemi-Sync, and you can find binaural beats for free on YouTube or SoundCloud or Vimeo or wherever now, and a lot of them do work. And what you're generally going to get is what's called a theta 4. And some of Bob's focus levels do revolve around a theta 4, but people figured out that that's kind of the magic frequency for meditation and accessing different states of consciousness. So if you take Gateway Voyage, you get introduced to Focus 10, which is a mind-awake, body-asleep state. Focus 12, which is a state of expanded awareness. Focus 15, which is a state of no time. Focus 21, which is the edge of space-time. That's the 5-day, 6-night package. And the Gateway Experience set of exercises that are on the website kind of simulate that experience. So, yeah, it's a very deep exploration of consciousness.
Wow. And so after they did that experiment, then you guys started learning, because you've got different programs on health, lucid dreaming, trying to help with addiction, napping, just everything. And did you guys start figuring out, okay, this belongs to this state and Hertz or whatever, and then just because some of it's got really beautiful music, and I've had some very cool dreams listening to it, and it's like, how are you guys figuring all this stuff out? And of course, you're doing that, I would think, through testing and stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And without getting too technical, the big picture idea is we're providing a gateway, no pun intended, out of your ordinary waking consciousness. So kind of, all of those beta frequencies, and accessing states of consciousness, including the subconscious, that you don't typically access in a conscious way. You might access it while sleeping, but then you wake up and, maybe you remember kind of like one dream or, maybe two. But the vast majority of the time you spent sleeping, you had no awareness. And so we are creating a set of training wheels, basically, to help you become aware in these brain states that you aren't used to being aware in. And by accessing these different states of consciousness, you can do a lot. You can explore, and you can also change your programming. Like changing your habits, and letting go of stuff that no longer serves you. I think where a lot of people fall short is they're trying to use their conscious mind to change, to effect some type of change in their life. And, that's all well and good. But your conscious mind might be like 5% of your brain activity, maybe 10. And so like 90 to 95% of it is subconscious. And it's this programming that is kind of built in that you're not aware of. And so you need to be able to go into that to be able to change. And these tools kind of give you the ability to do that. Okay.
So that makes sense. So say, for instance, somebody's got an addiction to cigarettes or whatever, and obviously this just may help to do that. It kind of helps get into the subconscious to eliminate that to try to eliminate that addiction? Because I know some people have taken extreme measures to get rid of addiction. You know, they've gone on shamanic journeys and done some, I forget the name of it. It's not ayahuasca. It's some ibogaine. You know, done just stuff that sounds really intense. You know, and I'm thinking, well, maybe there's other things that can help. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. But when do we start to lose? Like, naturally, we start to lose our awareness as we go into these states, like you said, and we just let go, and we're no longer aware. So you're helping us hold on. Is that what you're doing?
Right. So if you take Focus 10, for example, so that's called the mind awake, body asleep state. So, you know, back when I was, you know, practicing to go out of body, I did all of these elaborate relaxation exercises and breathing exercises to try to achieve this state. And it took me a good solid month, you know, maybe even 6 weeks of sustained daily practice of, you know, at least half an hour to eventually induce that state on my own. But with Hemi-Sync, you can achieve a Focus 10 state, a mind awake, body asleep state, very, very quickly. And it will vary from person to person. But yeah, you're laying down the neural pathways to maintain clarity, you know, mental awareness, while your body is in a nice, relaxed state. And it's a type of mental awareness that is different than your everyday kind of walking around state of consciousness. It is kind of marked by a sense of clarity and coherence that is very different than your ordinary experience kind of functioning in the world.
And so we can say, too, that, like, there are a lot of people that have ripped off the Hemi-Sync thing, but if you get a Hemi-Sync product, you pretty much know you're getting the real deal, you're getting the testing, the organization that's behind it, you're getting the best of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liken it to, you know, some people are fine getting their coffee at the gas station. Mm-hmm. Other folks like going to Starbucks, and, you know, to each his own. I got you. And so, yeah, that's sort of how I look at it. You know, there's a lot that goes into producing an exercise, from getting the right, you know, talent involved, to scripting the exercise, to engineering it, to, you know, cleaning it up and, you know, producing it. And so, you know, all of that costs money. If you're getting free binaural beats off of YouTube, it might work to some degree, but they're probably not doing all that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I hope you're not mad at me, but I've tried a couple of those things off YouTube, and they really it didn't work as good.
Oh, it didn't work. Okay,
not as good, and you know, not really. And just as a little technical question here, that's not so sexy of a question, but I'm just curious: does it matter if it's MP3 or FLAC or? That's a big question for a lot of people. Like, oh, you know, you want it to be lossless, and I'm like, well, these are MP3s; they work just fine.
Yeah, no, you know, we get that question a lot. And so the answer is the MP3s work fine in terms of inducing the desired state of consciousness. There's no difference in the registration that the user receives in an MP3 recording versus a WAV file or a FLAC file. However, if you're an audiophile, and for instance, you're buying a musical Hemi-Sync piece, you might notice a certain richness in the sound quality that you get in a CD that you don't get in an MP3. But, I mean, by and large, most people these days, they're listening to all their music as MP3s. I mean, if you're listening to music on Spotify or Sirius or any type of streaming service, you're getting an MP3, and people are used to that now. So short answer is it does not make a difference.
And with all these different, I mean, you've got fifth dimensional transformation, into the light, free flow states, magical ascension. I mean, this stuff is, look, if I got a shopping bag, I'm telling you, I'd fill it full of this stuff. If you guys, if you guys are like me and you got, and I mean, and you know what, I'm going to say this too. I'll go ahead and say this. That you made this stuff back in the day, it wasn't as affordable. right?
Yep.
Because of the technology, but now
Yep.
it's super affordable.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that.
Well, look, with the app, we want to offer basically an all-you-can-eat plan where you can access everything at a much more affordable price. And it's not built yet, but stay tuned. In a couple of months, it'll be ready.
Now, I've got friends that are really into lucid dreaming and consciousness exploration. I've got another friend that does a show called Nox Mente where they just talk about people's dreams. Now, if you're a lucid dreaming freak and you love to explore these states, would you say that Hemi-Sync would be a vital tool to have, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly help a lot. There's a variety of other things that are involved in a good lucid dreaming practice as well, like, keeping a dream journal and using reality checks. And, Luigi Chambarella, I defer to him on all the lucid dreaming stuff. And we actually produced an album with him earlier this year that utilizes what's called a wake-induced method. Most people think of lucid dreaming and they think, dream-induced method, and we'll do that next with him. I did a podcast with him as well. So for more detailed explanations of kind of how he approaches it or how we approached it together, check that out. But it is certainly a useful tool for maintaining lucidity and awareness while asleep. Luigi kind of takes the approach that you train lucidity in a kind of conscious state as well, before you go into sleep, so that you have that ability already ingrained, and then you use a reality check to bring it up as you're sleeping. But there are different ways to skin that cat.
Different ways to skin that cat. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, back to the out-of-body experience, because this is what a lot of people are interested in. What I ran into is the fear barrier. I seen some beings and stuff and things that kind of freaked me out. Yeah. And do you have programs that help people move past that, or do you just make them aware of it?
Yeah.
Doesn't really do that, though, does it? It just kind of gets you to that state, I think.
Yeah, it's really kind of up to the individual to confront what's there. In my own personal experience, there is nothing there that can harm you. Most of what you encounter are just your own projections of something fearful. And when you face it with kind of all of your resources and, you're present with it, it tends to resolve in a way that is very satisfactory and might make you aware of something that you were holding on, some type of a wound, some type of a fear that is embodied in whatever it is that you're confronting. And so we talked earlier about releasing fears and limiting beliefs. That is one of the ways that you do that.
Now, does it, here's what I want to do. I want to get back to that state, obviously, but I'm sure everybody does. Why do you think that it's so hard for a lot of people like me that they did have an out-of-body experience, right? Let's say they had one. It was incredible. Yeah. I'll never forget it. But they got such a hard time getting back to that point.
Yeah, that's a common problem, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm just telling you, it's one of the most frustrating things in the world to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. I mean, there's all types of valuable, rich experience that you can have without going classically out of body. In a lot of ways, so there's a few pitfalls, I think, to the out of body practice. One is you kind of have a joyriding phenomenon if you get good at it. You just kind of go out and, I don't know, you want to explore the neighborhood. But, what are you actually doing, right? Like, are you improving the quality of your consciousness? Are you improving your understanding of self? That's questionable. And, the other aspect that you can have is you just kind of spend a lot of time trying to create a certain state. And you're fixated on that state. And so you might spend 30 minutes to an hour in the morning or at night, or I don't know, maybe even in the middle of the day, depending on what your schedule allows, on trying to get out of body. And it doesn't happen for you. And so, what have you really done with that time? And so, what I like to tell people is, look, if it's not happening for you, just try something else. Try a different exercise, try a different technique. Don't be so hung up on trying to get out of body, and just kind of let it happen. What might be happening is just some sort of guidance from your higher self that knows you best, that, hey man, this isn't the right thing for you right now. You need to kind of look over here. And it's important to pay attention to that.
Now, kind of Hemi-Sync aside, personally, do you have a theory about this higher self thing? Because it's a question that I run into a lot, and I've talked to people like Jason Quitt, Thomas Campbell, and I've asked him all this question. These beings that either pushed me back in my body or were there just to freak me out. I've had people say, well, that was your higher self. William Buellman told me that was your fear being projected, like I was projecting these things with my subconscious. And it is a common thing that fear state is there. Right. Is it always there when we get to that level? I mean, is there any way around it?
If there is a fear barrier there, it is unlikely to go away unless you confront it directly. That's my own experience. But in general, what you'll find is the thing that you were so scared of, there was not much there to be scared of, actually. It's just a matter of kind of remaining calm, knowing that you're an immortal being and that nothing can harm you. And with that type of self-knowledge, there's nothing that you can't face down.
Sure. Okay. So when I get back to that point, just remember that I can control the situation if I want to, if I'm in a better state of awareness.
And that you're an immortal spiritual being that can't be harmed.
So really all this freaky stuff, I mean, if we really think about it, no matter how, I'm talking about there's scared, and then there's fear, and then there's terror. Right. The difference, right? Like, I got to a state of terror, and I'm thinking, well, if I'm doing that to myself, if that's me, how powerful is my brain really? Mm-hmm. Right? And you were talking about that earlier. I think that it's very interesting to me that you weren't brought up in a spiritual, like religious type family, were you?
No, I sort of did it to myself, though. I started taking myself to church when I was in my teens.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you some questions about gnosis and stuff of that nature. I'm no expert on it. I know the thing about gnosis is I don't think anybody's an expert on it. But we do have to take our break here. We'll be right back with Garrett Stevens, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Be right back, man.
How you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
We're the hosts of Healers and Hellraisers, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at The Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras, quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words," end quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. If you want to call in or ask any questions, that call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. That's toll-free from Canada. You can text in the show at 501-777-5631. We are here with Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens. And you got, so real quick before we get back into the OBE discussions and Hemi-Sync discussion, you got your own workshops that you do now, right?
I do, yeah. I mean, I actually don't give as many as I used to now that I'm running Hemi-Sync because that keeps me pretty busy. But yeah, I'm a trainer for TMI, Monroe Institute. And so I give what's called the excursion, which is kind of like the first half of Gateway Voyage, which we talked about earlier. So that's kind of focus 10, 12, maybe a little 15. And I usually give those over 2 days. I've got one coming up here in LA next month. And so that's on consciousnews.com if people want to sign up. And then I also give a couple other ones, not all the time, but I give an advanced workshop, which kind of covers focus 15, 21, 27. And I do a one on out-of-body experience too.
Now, I got to ask this.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I got to. You said you went to the astral realms, like these other realms. What did you see, man? What kind of experiences have you had in these places? Just if you don't mind me asking, because I'm so curious about it.
Yeah. I mean, some of it gets a little personal, but sure. I mean, I have journals kind of filled with my experiences. It's like, the thing with all of it is you come back and you write it down and it somehow loses some of its immediacy. But I think the most interesting experiences I've had have just been around, increased self-knowledge. I mean, I've had some that are spectacular where I feel like, I'm flying through stars and whatnot. And, with that comes an expanded sense of self and kind of what you actually are and what you're capable of and the knowledge that you're going to survive your physical death, which is a huge thing. I mean, that's a huge fear. But I think it's most, or the experiences that are most gratifying to me are just abiding in presence. I mean, just sitting in like a really deep blackness, like where you dissolve with the blackness, can be incredibly opening. You can establish a sense of presence and expansion and, true will, this ability to kind of be in this physical world and, do the work that you feel that you were put here to do and that nothing can get in the way of that. There's just tremendous resources that you can access in these other states of consciousness, tremendous resources, tremendous access to information, and just a sense that you're truly more than your physical body. And that can go very, very deep. But I really encourage everyone to try to find out for themselves.
Well, just you telling me some of that stuff's personal mesmerizes me, because that, to me, that means you're getting answers. You're starting to get some type of answers about you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of what it's about.
Whether it's confusing or whatever, I'm sure it gets confusing at first. Let me tell you about what happened to me. Then you can kind of, if you don't mind, comment on this. So the first time I had an out-of-body experience, I was doing certain meditations and rituals, but I was also listening to, like I said, you guys' the free stuff you give away on the website, that one free album you get where you can actually hear Bob talking and stuff. And when I got out of my body, I did the classic rollout. I saw myself. Super excited, and I'm sure that anybody that ever had that for the first time really gets excited, especially when you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
And I go outside, and I'm not doing any conscious work or anything, and I don't even remember if I opened the door, actually. I might have went through it. But I do know that everything looked more real. I could still hear the crickets kind of buzzing, and it was just like it was. It wasn't a dream like that fuzzy dream state. It was very vivid,
Yeah.
And I said, all right. So I tried to fly, and when I flew, it felt like I was being pulled almost. And I was like, oh, man, I'm really doing this. And the first thing that got in my mind was I want to go out there to these other realms, right? And so I tried to launch and go straight to space, and nothing. And it turned into like this white static TV, black static, nothing. And then I woke up, and I was like, well, that's it's. Do you find that happens a lot? You get out there and you really want to do something, and then there's this barrier. Now, it's almost disappointing. That was the thing I'm trying to get back to.
Yeah. Well, first, I would say that your comment about it feeling very vivid rings very true. I find that a lot of experience in these expanded states of consciousness or altered states of consciousness feel more real than real.
Right. And
I think that it's because you're having experience with faculties that are beyond your five physical senses. There are different ways of perceiving information, of perceiving your surroundings, of perceiving things like color and smell and sound and visuals that you don't have here in physical matter reality. And so they imprint on you in a way that is very fresh because it's so different from your ordinary experience. In terms of getting stuck, I think that's really common. I've had a lot of experiences with that, either getting stuck, getting out of body, or like having an experience and like all of a sudden, like you're in a place where you're interested, but like for whatever reason, you can't bring quite enough energy to it, and it starts to break down a little bit, and it kind of ends before you wanted it to. I think that stuff happens all the time.
And is that something that you think, in your opinion, that, it's hard to get scientific about some of this stuff. It really is. But
yeah,
do you think, in your opinion, that we need to work through? Maybe there's a barrier there for a reason.
Oh, totally. I think part of the process is journaling afterwards and kind of sitting with, what happened, why did it happen, as you do that, I think you can often find that the answers come. They come from inside, and they don't always come in a timely manner or in a way that you expected. But, if you kind of maintain awareness, if you're receptive to the answers, they do tend to come.
And so in my opinion, this state of gnosis is what everybody is trying to get to. But the philosophers called it gnosis, and even the Rosicrucians called it, I think, the sunnum bonum. It's kind of like I probably said that wrong, but it's kind of like when you find out who you really are.
Yeah.
And do you find that going in these states makes it difficult for some people to keep their feet on the ground in the real world? Because I actually had, when I started having these experiences, it's all I wanted to do. It's all I thought about. And
right.
I left the real world behind and forgot, that I was living here. And I think that happens quite a bit, trying to get to the state of gnosis. Yeah.
So kind of a couple concepts there. So, this concept of gnosis, it kind of means different things to different people. My sort of first experience with it was in college when I took Greek philosophy, and I think I got like a B-, so I didn't exactly cover myself in glory there. But, generally, I think it refers to a state where a mystical experience can happen. And so, I would sort of think of this as, kind of being in like a theta state or an experience that kind of evolves out of a theta state. Now, one of the things that I like to tell people after the end of a workshop, well, first of all, I'll do a grounding exercise, and I'll encourage them to kind of go outside and walk around in some grass with some bare feet, because that can be very grounding, and to do that before they drive off. But also when they go back to their everyday life, do take the tools that they develop during the workshop and the experiences and their journaled experiences with them, and reflect on them and keep practicing the techniques. But also, ease back into it. Like, don't do anything rash. Like, don't finish a workshop and go back home and sell your house or quit your job or get divorced or, don't do anything rash after having a peak experience.
Or start a radio station with nothing.
Well, no, that might be a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's
what I did.
Was that right?
I should have planned a little bit more, though. I should have. Okay. If I was a good businessman, I would have planned a lot better before. Believe me, right. I've learned some hard lessons about it, but I'm kind of glad I did it too.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, I've learned hard lessons too, but no, it seems like it's going pretty good.
Well, it keeps me in the real world because now, like we were talking about during the break, I get to talk to these people that I've always wanted to talk to. And ask the questions that I want to ask, and then all these people are taking this ride with me, and when it's over, then I can go back to the real world.
Yeah. That's what I like about podcasting, too. I mean, I kind of started doing it just as kind of a promotional or educational tool that we would do with product contributors and artists that we work with to create new product. So for each new release, I would do something with the talent, basically. But as I started getting more into it, I started just trying to find folks that, did stuff or wrote stuff that I thought was interesting and wanted to kind of engage with them. It's a fun ride. I haven't done nearly as many as you have. I think I've only done about 14, but, you've really honed your craft, Joe.
I think that, I appreciate that. I think this is episode like 186 or something. We're almost to 200 here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I recommend everybody do it. And the internet, I believe, is helping us move consciousness along. I forget who said it the other day, but it did. It made the world smaller, which is a good thing. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I was watching an independent film that Manu Interreme was in, and they were talking about that. That it made the world smaller. Yeah. And that we can all talk to each other and we can find our kind of like our soul family, the people that are doing this stuff, if they're not doing it in your immediate area.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that I enjoy doing when, I've got some free time, is, I like looking at the Hemi-Sync website and looking at where the traffic's coming from. And like you see different parts of the world lighting up and you see orders coming in from different countries. And so like, I think we touched over 100 countries last year. And it's just really cool to see that happening. People from all over the world kind of getting into this stuff and, kind of at our core, we all want the same things, right? We all want, to have some sort of fulfillment and purpose and to be content and to be happy and to be whole. I think one of the issues that we face as a society right now is it's very easy to see, people with different views than yours as the other or as the enemy, as something like totally different from you that is maybe even less than human. And in doing this type of work, you realize that we truly all do share the same ground and the same source and want the same things. And so my hope is that if we can get more people involved in doing this type of work, that it'll make a difference.
Well, I can tell you that this show and this radio station and this audience is behind what you're doing 100%. 100%. And I think, but I do have a question. I've listened to some of these people that have messaged me about the tones, right? And they talk about the hertz and the different tones. Yeah. And it's like they want to just listen to one tone.
Yeah.
And I've tried that, and it's almost like my head can't handle it sometimes. It depends on what tone it is.
Yeah, one tone can actually be kind of annoying.
Right. Right. It gets to the point like you're like, man, I can't shake it off. And it seems and it feels, I hate to even say that, but it feels kind of dangerous in some way. Like internally, it doesn't feel right to me to do that.
Right. I think that's a good way to put it. It doesn't feel right. I mean, I think one of the geniuses of Bob Monroe is that, he figured out these recipes. So every Hemi-Sync carrier or, focus level, as we call it, is a sandwich, basically, of different binaural beats in certain ratios to each other. They're also mixed with pink noise, and in various instances, surf sound or music, and it's that kind of composition that makes it pleasing and creates a comfortable environment for your experience to unfold. But you're right. If you just put kind of Theta 4 into your ears, it can get kind of annoying. Yeah. It may induce some type of experience, but yeah, it can get annoying.
Dennis Koch in the chat room says, what about warnings about driving or labor while listening to Hemi? I wouldn't recommend. I mean, they give that warning. Don't do this while driving or doing anything important,
Yeah. Do not to operate heavy machinery while you're using Hemi-Sync. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's on all the packaging.
Now, what is your favorite thing to do? I hate to say my favorite, pick out the chairman of his own product and say what's your favorite. But I am curious, like there's a lot of subjects here. Meditation, wellness, reduced stress. Which one do you find that you like to indulge in more?
It just kind of depends on what I need. So like if I'm working, I might just put on one of the concentration pieces. Like I think Remembrance is a great one. I play a variety of those for my kids when they're doing homework. Whereas if I'm trying to sleep, I might play something else, something from the sleep selection. If I'm trying to have an experience, whether it's shamanic or out of body or near death, I'll pick accordingly. But I really don't have a single favorite. I think the best series for people that are new to it and are trying to get introduced to it is the Interstates album. It introduces people to these different states of consciousness in a very accessible way.
Okay. So like if I have a hard time reading books from front to back. That's why I always get audiobooks. But if I really wanted to indulge in a book, maybe I would get the focused attention or concentration one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of put that on as you're reading or working. It'll help any task of vigilance.
Now, the one touchy subject that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but I know William Buhlman is working with this, and you've got a couple of, I think you've got one album about it, is, the dying process. And look, it's something that we all think about, all of us. We all are kind of worried about it. We wonder what's there. And I know you even had an episode where you talked to, I forget the guy's name, but it was a great episode talking about life after death. As far as technology goes and into the future, what do you think about this death preparation thing? I think it's a really, really, in my opinion, a good thing. I think it is.
Well, I think it's a form of psychosis that, as a culture, as a society, we live so much of our lives rarely thinking about it. It's like, whistling past the graveyard. But, when we talk about, the various fears that we all hold, the fear of death, if you unpack it, kind of peel back the layers, the fear of death usually sits at the bottom of most of those fears. And I think one of the primary values in having an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience is in overcoming that fear. It really can transform your whole perspective. And, I think maybe one of the reasons why some people that have had those experiences tend to not have them as much anymore or tend to get frustrated by the lack of the frequency is maybe some sort of message from their higher self that, hey, man, you've kind of had this experience, continue to grow, look for other things, where else can you take this? But yeah, I think, getting comfortable with death is a big deal.
Yeah, it's really important to a lot of people, and I don't know if William Buhlman was one of the first people that wrote about it and worked with people that were in that stage of life. But I just think to truly know, not wonder or doubt or believe, but to truly know that, hey, everything's going to be fine. You, like you said, you've done this before.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. Now you can go live your life. Stop worrying about it. Because, everybody says, don't worry. There's nothing. I hate when people say this, by the way. There's nothing you can do about it. So don't worry about it. Now, that's true with a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
But when it comes to death, you can tell me that all you want, but I still have that in the back of my mind, like, what if I'm just going to turn into worm food and that's it? You know, like, I don't like thinking about it, but it's there.
No, I mean, that's a great example of why direct experience is so important. I mean, I can tell you, Joe, you know, don't worry, man, it's going to be fine. You know, I can tell you that all I want, but, you know, is that going to be good enough for you? Probably not. I mean, you want to have that knowledge for yourself.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that more people are doing this. And I know you and your product, you touched on it a little bit, and I think should be another thing in the future to look into.
Yeah. Well, so we have a whole series called Into the Light that was done by a guy named Scott Taylor, who is also a trainer at TMI, and he's also I don't know what the word is, but a fellow or somehow affiliated with the Institute of Near-Death Studies, IANS. You know, he's developed a whole series kind of dealing with the subject. William Buhlman talks about it too, and, you know, integrates it into his work. Yeah, check out Scott Taylor.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, the Into the Light series. It's, well, you know, my grandmother has she's got breast cancer, and a little bit of it's moved into her lung, and I've got you know, friends and relatives that are all kind of dealing with this thing, and it's you know, they pretend like they don't think about it or worry about it, but I think, man, wouldn't it be nice to in the future to have a program to say, hey, listen to this and do this for a while and go into these states, and then they have an experience that truly lets them know that everything is going to be okay, not just a speculative type talk about it.
Right. So there's also one called Going Home that is designed for people that are in the dying process, as well as, you know, those that are close to them. You know, to your point, I think we could do a better job of letting people know about it, and maybe even creating some type of an online program around it, so that there's more hand-holding through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be, you got to be careful about how you do it, but I like, you know, there's always going to be people that just don't want to talk about it or deal with it, but I've always respected people like Scott Taylor or William Buhlman, you know, that just go straight at it and is like, you know, he's quick to talk about what's ridiculous and what's not, and he's really big on belief structures, and that was one of the things, man, that, because even when I have esoteric beliefs, like I guess you could call it esoteric Christianity, but even his programs knock those down a little bit. Like, look, this is just a belief structure. So it's
man-made,
right? And then that makes you wonder, okay, so what's really out there? What is this about? But we only got like 30 more minutes with you left here, man. We're gonna take our last break here with Garrett, and we'll be right back, guys. You don't go anywhere.
Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Ahoy there, Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're here to take you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Central, right here on The Fringe FM.
And remember, don't feed the archons, Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we'll include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the Lime Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
How you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
From the Healers and Hellraisers podcast.
A podcast about people.
You're going to hear stories from the enlightening to the frightening.
Told by those who lived it.
Listen right here on the Fringe FM.
Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And on the Fringe Free-For-All, right here on the Fringe FM. Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lawnmower Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. You can email the show if you want to. Don't forget, you can always send me a direct email during the show at contact@lightingthevoid.com. We are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM, and you can join in on the chat rooms as well. We got one going on at Spreaker and one going on 24/7 on the Discord chat. And we're speaking to Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens, tonight. And it's been such an awesome conversation so far. I don't get to speak to a lot of business owners, much less business owners that are in the business of enhancing consciousness. So it's been a real treat. Thank you. I just have to say thank you again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, man. It's been fun.
So I'm kind of curious now to your vision of Hemi-Sync. Are you just going to keep doing what you're doing, finding more programs and products? Or do you have a future vision for different things when it comes to Hemis? I'm sure you do, but I'm just curious about it.
I definitely do. Some of it I can talk about, and so I will. So, like I mentioned earlier, one of the ways that we want to get it out there more is through technology. So we're investing in that, hoping to unveil an app that will sync your library with your phone, and you can create playlists on and do all that good stuff, and kind of have access to the vast majority of the library, like 90% of the library, for a relatively low monthly rate. And that'll be available hopefully in November. So I think that'll help a lot. Especially with, people that don't want to deal with, downloading MP3 and importing into iTunes and then syncing their phone, younger people don't want to deal with that at all. So, we have to solve that for them. But to my other point about trying to reach more people, we're trying to find, product contributors. Those are the people that we make the albums with, that have an important message to say, and that have, an audience of their own that we can kind of add to ours. And so it's hopefully a case of 1 + 1 = 3. I think, one of the elements to it is, if you want to reach a lot more people, millions of people, tens of millions of people, the way to do it is really through the zeitgeist. And so pop culture is kind of the operating system of the zeitgeist. So, it helps if we can find folks that, have some notoriety, but also have a certain type of attunement to this stuff to work with. And so, that's part of what we've been trying to do. And, then there's an element of just kind of good old-fashioned marketing too. So kind of getting up to speed on a lot of that. I've only been kind of at the helm since March of 2017. So, there's just been a lot of kind of catch-up work to do that has occupied most of the last year and a half. Rebuilding the website, rebuilding some of our kind of audio production capabilities, and now with building the app. But it's a labor of love, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, I'm excited to see where it goes. I really am. And it must say a lot about you as a character to take over something that Robert Monroe started. Did you feel any pressure about that, by the way? Because I would have, for sure.
A ton. You don't want to be the guy that fucked up Hemi-Sync.
Yeah, right. I get that because, Robert Monroe is like, I'm thinking about that because before the interview, I think about what is this guy thinking about? What's the story here? And Robert Monroe is one of my idols in consciousness exploration. Yeah. And it's like, here you go. Here's my business that we started this thing. Yeah. Take it over. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. No, it's a trip, man, because you're right. I mean, Bob Monroe is kind of this legendary figure. That almost seemed kind of like larger than life to me. And now, I kind of go into the office some days and I look at sort of the old corporate documents that are like from the 50s and 60s, and like at the bottom of every page is a signature, Robert Monroe. It's a trip to see that. I take the responsibility tremendously seriously. And I was very touched that his kids saw fit to entrust the business to me. And, I don't take that lightly at all.
Yeah, so there definitely was some pressure there. I knew that. I knew you wasn't going to say, "Nah, man, that's nothing to it,"
Oh yeah, no, there still is pressure there.
For sure. I would definitely be pressured about it. But you know what? I got to say, like, if I was to own a business, that would be, other than this business, that would be another business I would like to own, because I do see a future in it. I mean, with all these people that we talk to every day on the network and stuff, there are just more. It's not like the market isn't growing. There are more and more people having experiences and just trying to figure out what's going on. And I think the mundane is starting to go away a little bit. I really do. I used to think it was my perception, but now I know it's not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you can see a lot of things kind of coming to a head in society, and there needs to be a new way of doing things and a new way of living, a new system that actually asks the question of, what does it mean to live a good life? I think we have a role to play in that.
Now, you yourself, what do you think about the shamanic part of this? Because when I hear the word shaman, I'm like, well, that means I've got to take drugs and I've got to go out to some jungle and, And I'm not so sure now that that's what that means. Like, I don't understand it too much, but I think I'm starting to get, maybe it has more to do with nature. I'm just asking you about it because I don't know much about it.
No, I mean, none of this stuff is new, right? People have been having these types of experiences for thousands of years. When you talk about Moses talking to a burning bush, I mean, that dude was not in an ordinary state of consciousness when he was talking to a burning bush. Right. It's the same thing with a lot of indigenous cultures, that had shaman or, medicine men. They're using altered states of consciousness to serve the community, to, bring about healing or some sort of manifestation, or just some rite of initiation that leads to, a sense of expanded self. And no, I mean, I don't think you have to use drugs to achieve those states. And, I'm not here to judge people that do.
Sure.
But, I've had tremendous experiences without the use of drugs. And, you're totally in control and you don't have any negative side effects. And, I think you can, consciousness, I think, can go anywhere and everywhere. It's just it's just a matter of kind of unlocking the door. And we try to make tools to make that a little bit easier.
In your journeys, have you found that other things besides the human are conscious or sentient? Because there's this idea of animism that I'm trying to learn about, but I don't experience that. I really don't.
So, I subscribe to this idea of consciousness. It's kind of a form of idealism, which holds that consciousness is fundamental, as opposed to, physical matter being fundamental. I think all things physical sit in consciousness, not vice versa. I don't think consciousness is a derivative effect of physical matter. I don't think it's created in the brain. Now, that is different than saying that all things are conscious. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. I have had experiences where things that we might consider to be inanimate objects seem to have some sort of a message or some sort of a presence or energy that you can maybe describe as consciousness. And I'm talking about things like, I don't know, trees or mountains or even planets. Right. Yeah. And so, I think those things do exist. So that's that I guess is kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
Well, yeah, because I know you're journeying a lot, and it's something that's been on my mind lately. Because you hear that, oh man, the planet's sentient, this leaf is sentient, the rock is sentient. And I'm like, well, how come I can't talk to it? Right. I'm not saying that it's not, but in my experience, the only thing that I've seen that can move in these realms really is humans, beings, and even animals. But everything else is just kind of like a setting or a prop, Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely different. I don't think of those things as being conscious in the way that humans are. Yeah, well, it's fair enough. Now, I do want to ask about the science of what you guys are doing. How do you go about it? Do you have people that come and say, I want to volunteer to test some of these things out, or do you just have testers you use all the time? How does that process work?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. Historically, the research side of it has been handled by the Institute, and they still have an active research practice. They're running studies right now. But there is actually a next generation of technology that we're starting to work on, and we aren't yet at the stage where we're running trials. But that is a question that we will have to answer, and I don't have a good one yet. To begin with, we just kind of always test it on ourselves first and just see if it's achieving the effect that we think it should.
Right.
And then from there, we kind of make some adjustments and dial in a little closer, and then maybe we'll start going out to a broader set of people and trying to test the efficacy. But yeah, Bob developed Hemi-Sync over decades and, thousands of trials with many, many people. But the bulk of that work was completed some time ago. The work that is going on now is much smaller and much more focused.
And the next generation stuff is obviously the stuff you can't talk about yet. I can't wait to see what it is, though. And I hope it all comes out ahead. I hope it all comes, because I do. I kind of want to live in a world where, Bob talked about in his third book where he met beings that could consciously, and I know it sounds wild, guys, but he met beings that could consciously travel wherever they wanted to. Yeah. Like they even left their bodies at certain places. And I'm like, this is insane. It sounds insane, but if you start from the fundamental that you can explore these realms, then anything is possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the main way people find us is still through Bob's books, even after all these years. But yeah, again, I can't emphasize enough how, our everyday conscious experience is just the tip of the iceberg. Not even that. Like that's even it's even less than that of what you can experience.
What are some of the expectations that people expect but they don't get? Like, what are some of the surprises that happens to people? Because I'm sure that happens a lot.
Well, so expectations can be a big deal, and that can also be, a factor in inhibiting your experience. If you go into, a workshop or just a single exercise with, what we call Superman expectations, you're expecting fireworks. That can be an inhibitor. It's better to go in with kind of an open mindset, the mindset of an explorer, where you're just generally curious about yourself, really, and about what's going to happen and, what's here right now. That, I think, more than anything, is what contributes to a rich experience.
You also got these, which I think is really cool, on your website, sleep phones. Sleep phones is probably one of the coolest accessories I've ever seen to Hemi-Sync in my entire life. Pajamas for your ears. I would probably wear these things all the time if I had a set.
I do sleep with them when when I'm not sleeping well, which is not that often, but they do come in handy because regular headsets are too bulky to try to roll around in bed with. I toss and turn a lot.
Yeah, me too. And I'm one of those people that have Superman expectations, and I think that's probably what's hindered some of my experiences. But when you listen to it, it's like, man, these, the old test that Robert did when he had people laying down and going through these things, that, man, they were meeting beings of people that had passed on, trying to help them move on and things like that. Have you ever met any beings that were stuck, let's just say, stuck in the other realm?
Yeah, so, when I was talking about the focus levels before, there's actually this realm kind of between focus 21 and 27 where beings that, as you're discussing, can get stuck. There is a course at the Institute called Lifeline that is focused on going into those areas and taking those souls to a proper final destination, which we kind of term Focus 27. It's similar to what, once again, it's similar to what shamans have been doing for thousands of years. It's a soul retrieval course. The terms assigned to it are a little bit different, but that is exactly the idea behind that course. And we're actually looking to release a new gateway experience, Wave 7, early next year, which will be based on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of groundbreaking because the gateway experience has been the original. Wasn't that the original Hemi-Sync experience, like the first?
Yes.
The first one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How long does it usually take someone to go through all of that? Is it a lifetime? Can they get through it in a year, or is there really no set time limit?
No, I mean, everyone can kind of go at their own pace, but right now there's 36 exercises in the Gateway Experience series. And so, however long that takes you. I mean, I think all told, in our total library, we have like over 1,000 exercises. So that could take you a while to get through all of them. But Gateway Experience itself is 36 exercises right now. But there'll be 6 more added in January or February.
Now, you find yourself in this a lot? Like, I mean, does your wife or family come to? Will you get those headphones off and talk to her? Is that how it is? Because that's how I'd be probably. I'd be in this stuff all the time if I owned this thing.
Yeah. No, I definitely do use it quite a bit. I've been doing this for years, so my wife's kind of used to it, and she knows if I'm going into a room and closing the door and putting on headphones, that's what's happening. But yeah, no, it's cool to actually be on the other side of it now for sure.
A question from Joseph K. in the Spreaker chat for you, Garrett, is does Hemi-Sync lead to the ability to one day travel without the audio, or is it just a replacement?
Yeah, no, I mean, earlier I kind of described it as training wheels. You can induce or you can reach all these states of consciousness without Hemi-Sync. It just makes it a little bit easier, and it can allow you to hold that state for longer. But yeah, I mean, we actually encourage people to try to, go to these states, to access these states with no assistance at all at some point, and just to see how it goes. It can be an important process of your as a part of your personal growth. But that said, even after, becoming, fairly adept at this and, being able to do it without using Hemi-Sync, I still do go back and use Hemi-Sync from time to time just because, it does some of the heavy lifting for me, or I want to have a particular type of experience and the guidance is helpful. And so, I think a good daily practice or a good meditative practice can incorporate both.
Okay. Now, that's good to know because I don't care. I'd probably, honestly, if it were me, I would use Hemi-Sync the rest of my life if I had to. But it is good to know that it does train you to get there.
Yeah.
especially with the noise of life today. I mean, in our society, things are going so fast. It's not like we can live like monks. So this is really a good tool to have.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Monks have kind of, shown up at times in the past and commented on how, it's helped them to reach certain states much faster. And had they known about it earlier, they would have used it. But yeah, the monk analogy is a good one.
So have you, this is kind of a weird question, but it's like a fantasy of mine ever since I heard it, was that they could do these things at the Monroe Institute using Hemi-Sync and some of these programs where they could travel to places or get in these states with other people. And I don't know if you can really do that with Hemi-Sync, but you know what I'm talking about? Like I go somewhere and another person goes with me and then we both remember it. Has that ever happened?
That has not happened for me. I do know people that have had that experience, and that could serve as, very validating confirmation. But yeah, I mean, at TMI, one of the places where people sometimes like to go try to meet is this huge crystal. Well, there's actually two huge crystals. There's one that sits outside of kind of the main building there, which is called the Nancy Penn Center. And then there's another one up the hill a bit that sits outside of Bob's old house. And so that often serves as a rendezvous point where people will try to go out and meet each other. But, that has unfortunately not happened for me there.
I feel like I'm a little kid reading a comic book, like that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I want to go hang out with like 9 different people in the astral realm. We've talked about it on this show, by the way. But
you have to go visit, man.
I hear that if I did take one of those trips, that crystal statue might be a place where we could meet somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. I don't even see it. Does bring into question, like, are we really out of body or is this the illusion? That's when all the crazy questions start happening.
Yeah. The only thing that's clear to me after doing a lot of this work is that, our reality is just infinitely mysterious. And that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes curiosity possible. It's the not knowing. Not knowing is really where it's at. What shuts down our experience, what inhibits us, what makes our ordinary experience dull and uninteresting is the mindset that we already know what's here. I know everything there is to know about my job or my family or, my partner or, my day-to-day environment. If you know everything already, what's left, what's left to be curious about. And so for me, not knowing is where it's at. And, there's a huge mysterious reality out there to be explored.
Well, there's a plethora of people that have acknowledged that Hemi-Sync has changed their life. If you go to the website, it's hemi-sync.com. That's a hyphen, right? I'm a little slow.
Yeah, it's a hyphen or dash, yeah.
Yeah, dash, hemi-sync.com. There's a ton of people that attest to it. You can sign up with your name and email to get that one free little album I was telling you guys about. We've actually played a small clip from that free album. I'm on that list. If I recommend you guys get on that list. And thank you so much, man, for spending time with us. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on, and I look forward to see what you come up with the future. And I hope this thing really keeps going the way it is right now.
My pleasure, Joe. Thanks. I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
You too. All right, guys, we'll be back in hour 3. Maybe you call in, tell us something about your experiences. Text in or call in. We'll be right back after these messages. truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of The Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to The Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store. Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Wow, what a ride. This is Joe Roop, and you're listening to Lighting the Void live on the Fringe FM. We just got through speaking with Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens. You can go check out that website at hemi-sync.com. All the links are there in the show notes as well. On Twitter and Facebook. Go check it out. Go download all that stuff as much as you can, because it really did launch me out of my body. Now, I'm here with Dan Lopez, the Reverend Dan Lopez, in Hour 3. And if you've got an out-of-body experience or something that launched you out of your body, text in the show or call the show. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. You can text in at 501-777-5631. Dan, I know you're a frequent fan of the tones. You've talked to me quite a bit about, actually, you're one of the first people I ever talked to about tones. And one of the experiences I had with him, and I'll just say that you helped me have with him, kind of freaked me out. It was a little bit powerful, to be honest with you.
You tried the ones that I sent you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Those are some pretty intense tones. Yeah.
I literally had to rip my headphones off because I was like, I felt like I was going somewhere. It kind of freaked me out, you know. But the Hemi-Sync products that I've used, they really do have, and I don't know how they do it. I'm sure he explained it, and he explained it very well, but it's still amazing to me that I could put on, let's just say, a lucid dreaming one, right? And I have lucid dreaming. Or I could put on one that helps me focus, and the next thing you know, I'm focusing better. And the brain, like, you know how people say consciousness isn't really in the brain. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a part of it that's in there. That's what confuses me, because we get this message that consciousness is this big sea that we're swimming in, and we're just antennas, like the brain doesn't do anything. And yet, it's obvious that this technology lets you know that the brain is doing something, or maybe it's just tweaking the antenna a little bit.
Yeah, current mainstream public science has a limited view on what's going on with the brain. You're better off doing your own experiments and trying to figure it out. I mean, it's okay for sometimes, doing research and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think the black projects have a better idea of what's going on than general science, as far as that's concerned. Because I do agree with both sides of the coin that the brain does maintain a certain portion of what's going on with the mind, but the mind is non-local, which it's here but it's not here. It's kind of like if you're in a dream, say you're in a dream, and all of a sudden you want to stop yourself from talking, and all of a sudden you're not in first person, but you're out of yourself, now observing yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden the person who's the self that's supposed to be doing all the activity winds up doing absolutely nothing, because now you're observing it, but you haven't allowed it free space to go ahead and continue. But when you go in the first person. Right? When you go into your dream, you go into the first person. You interact, you see things and everything like that. You walk around. But as soon as you start getting really deep into it, where you're observing yourself, you pull yourself out of yourself.
I'm curious, man, to what he's talking about. A next generation thing that they're testing and thinking about doing. I'm just so curious to what that could be. I mean,
I don't know.
What could it be?
He didn't hint. Could be it could be something similar to what I was talking about. Maybe you do get a connection, so where you have a full connection between your local self and your non-local self, the observer and the participant. Well, that would be cool.
I'll tell you, I truly did have one of my first experiences listening to that album. And I mean, you can go to the website, put your name and email, and it'll create a free account on the Hemi-Sync website, but you'll be able to download. It's called the Way of Hemi-Sync album, and you get to hear Bob Monroe talk to you, and it's the coolest thing ever, because you feel like it's Bob Monroe talking to you, man. He's right there talking to you, moving you along through these states of consciousness, and then he goes into this thing called resonant toning, I believe it's called, and it's really trippy, man. It's like it's like breathing colors, where you imagine that you're exhaling. If I remember it right, you're exhaling bad energy, and you actually make this noise where you're doing it vocally. So you're just going, making this noise while you're letting it go. But then you get to hear other people doing it, and it's the trippiest sound ever, man. If I could actually find it, I would play it, but it's really, really trippy. And as soon as that's over, you can feel your body go into this state of holding on. It's very hard to explain, but like if I go lay my head down, I will go out I don't even remember when I fall asleep. I'll just, I'll go right out. But when I listen to that, it's almost like it's keeping me there, like I'm not going to sleep. And then your mind starts to do all kinds of crazy things, and he tries to bring you back and talk to you a little bit more and talk you through it. It's kind of scary, to be honest with you. At first, it scared me a little bit because you don't know what's going to happen, You don't know where you're going to go, where you're going to end up. This whole thing is a trip to me, actually. It's just really a big trip. And I'll never forget that story you told me about the blackness that you were in. Well, he brought that up earlier. Remember when he said that?
That's when you were talking about whether there was going to be life after death, or whether you're going to be worm food or not, right?
Yeah. I don't want to die, man. I mean, we don't want to die. It's not something you want to talk about. It's not something you want to bring up. But I love life. There's a lot of people out there I've talked to that, not a lot, but few are like, I can't wait to leave this world. You know what? Fine, but I don't want to leave. Like I want to stay here forever, but I don't want to program consciousness into me like Battlestar Galactica that they're trying to do now.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't.
If you could, so so here's the paradox that I'm looking at. Say you have a terminal problem. You don't know when you're going to go. What if the opportunity opened up and you could stay indefinitely? Sure, there's a whole bunch of freaking, strings attached and everything like that. You don't know what's going to happen after the lights go out, right? There is no certainty. There are no guarantees. But they're offering you an opportunity to move your consciousness into something else. You wouldn't do it?
If I knew I was going to die?
Eventually, yeah.
No, I mean, if I was terminal and I knew I was going to die and I maybe had a month to live or whatever, and they said, and you're saying they come to me and say, look, I can put your consciousness in this other thing and you won't die. What, like a robot or another machine or another body or something?
I would hope it'd be like a robot. At this point, sure.
That's a tough question. No. Because I'd be afraid that that a part of me wouldn't actually go. And then maybe I would be stuck here in some type of weird limbo. You know what I mean? Like, when you asked me that and I really thought about it, I feel like there's this part of my consciousness that can't stay here. And then what if I move that, this is really weird, but what if I move that consciousness, what's left over, into this thing, and I'm stuck in this really messed up in-between state that I can't get out of? Like, what if it goes wrong? That's what I'm saying. I'd almost rather die than that go wrong.
But you just finished, yeah, okay. Well, there you go. That answered the question. Because I was just going to say that you just asked the question earlier whether you didn't know whether you were going to be worm food or not, which means we don't know. We can only take the word of other people who have been on the other side. And then, like I've said before many times, it's been always different for different people. It's never the same, It's like there's never no process. That's always the same when somebody goes and then they come back. It's like everybody's got, some can have similar stories, some can have completely way different stories, and none of them, exactly match. Where you can say, well, then I have a good idea of what's going to happen afterwards. I'm not really worried about it. You can't, because you're sitting there going, but they said this and they said that, and I don't know what to believe. And then we don't know what to believe.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm learning. Anything that man tells me about death or consciousness, I'm having a hard time believing.
Sure.
Because, what could you really know? And what do you know based on your own experience if somebody else has had something totally different, and then,
And then how is that provable? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the whole heaven thing. Like, you're going to go to heaven and streets are made of gold and all this other stuff, which, I mean, do you really want to go to a place where there's no conflict? Everything's just boring? Like bliss.
I don't know about no conflict,
you can't even,
but there's...
You can't even take bliss so long. I mean, there's a...
right.
What is that, man? Where this woman called into the Howard Stern show one time, and she keeps having these orgasms over and over again and can't quit. And everybody's like, oh, I'd love to have that. And she's like, it's torture.
Yeah.
Also,
that was in a movie once.
Was it?
What was it called? Yeah, I think it was called Dreamscape or something like that. It was one of those old ones. There were like 2 movies that came out back to back where they had recorded people's dreams, or they recorded their consciousness. They recorded their people's dreams or their experiences. And what you could do is you put on this thing and you could experience what they experienced. So, they had one guy, he actually went out and he had a heart attack. And somebody wore the thing and went through it and suffered a heart attack. And another guy went out there and he had went through a roller coaster, and another guy wore the darn thing and experienced going through the roller coaster. And then there was this one guy who was a part of the team who was building this damn thing, decided it would be a wonderful idea to go have somebody record themselves having a freaking an orgasm. And so he just spliced it over and over and over again, and he wound up in a freaking... Yeah, and he wound up in a mental hospital, just freaking sitting there going,
What a moron.
Exactly. So he turned into pretty much a vegetable.
You know what? Milo Duquette talks about, he wrote a song about being God, right? When he gets in this God state, I guess during his magical practices, and he becomes one with God. I've also got a friend who said that, she had a Reiki experience and actually went to where God was and talked to him, or it. And both of these stories, the parallel of both of these stories was that it was boring to be God. That's why I say that, like, this thing on, when I talk about life, like everybody's just trying to go somewhere else, that I actually think that life might be one of the greatest gifts of the universe. And through Hemi-Sync, we get to stay in the mystery, but tap into the reality, the true reality of these consciousness, this place of consciousness. And that's what's cool about it. But sometimes I even wonder, like, when the mystery's up, is it even going to be cool anymore? Like, maybe we shouldn't figure it all out.
I don't know.
I mean, is it we're just assuming that everything is going to be better somewhere else. And I say we, I don't mean you or whoever's listening. I don't mean that. I just mean, like, isn't that just an assumption, though, to assume that it's just going to be better somewhere else than here?
Well, that's the paradigm. The grass is always greener.
Yeah, William Buellman talked about and you have to get I forget the name of the book. I get them confused. But in one of his books, he talks about he goes to this place where it's kind of like a heaven, and there's this community there, and they're all there, and they go to church, and they're in church, and they're talking to this pastor, and he just kind of floats into this place and realizes, oh, I just went into somebody's reality structure or belief structures. In other words, a lot of the people that believe the same thing actually did go to some type of heaven that their consciousness created. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And when he showed up, it messed up the whole paradigm. Because here's this guy that doesn't fit in, that just kind of floating down into their church, and they all got mad at him. And he realized, man, I got to get out of here before I mess up this whole reality, this whole belief structure. This is like what was happening to him in his journeys. And Robert Monroe talks about places that he went in his journeys to other, I guess, realms or reality structures were almost like he had to hide because people didn't want to touch him or be around him because they didn't want whatever he had, and he couldn't really explain it, to rub off on them. Isn't that weird? Even beings that he couldn't even see. Like, couldn't physically see. He just felt that they were there. They didn't want anything to do with him. He would try to talk to them and interact with them, and they just didn't want nothing to do with him.
Right.
Almost like the human had something that could literally rub off on some of these other beings. 931 area code. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Joe. This is evening, gentlemen.
This is who? Sorry, cut out a little bit. Who are we speaking with?
I'm sorry, Tommy.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, yeah. I just was listening there, and I wanted to tell you that, you have to consider that if we're in a very limited, or at least I do, you don't have to do anything, but consider we're in a very limited density, a very heavy density, very heavy gravity planet. We have been genetically, altered, manipulated way back when, from 12 strands to 2 strands, just enough to keep us breathing and walking, and brain dead stupid enough to be obedient slaves, So we are, though, intelligent beings, and our higher selves, like Plato had was said that we already know everything. It's just remembering what we already know. So, in this realm, we can have as many interpretations of our experiences as there are people. And I think it's all real because real people are having them, and they say it's real, so it's real. We're not going to get the scientific proof from a laboratory with this fiction, negative, dark agenda going on. They have no ability to tell any truth whatsoever. So, I move it up to the idea that I brought up before about an ascension, where you would essentially, we would get all of our long lost and forgotten memory of the ages back. I don't know how many thousands or millions of years possibly that could be of who we are, our skills and abilities for millennia, that we don't have access or could remember right now. And so I don't really expect until we all ascend to the higher level, which, by the way, if I may say, when I view this ascension, okay, picture we got here through the sun, we get out through the sun. And the draconian negative faction cannot ascend because they're negative. And they cannot create their own glands bliss. They cannot feel good. They just go around trashing planets. So they cannot ascend. So that's why they're on the...
Who does? The Draconians?
Draconians, what? No, they're too negative. They cannot raise their vibration to ascend when that critical time arrives on a solar flash for a final upliftment. And I say nobody's going anywhere. We just transform right where we are in a very highly conscious reality of, say, the fifth dimension, like a fish out of water where everything comes alive. And we don't have this heavy gravity. We don't have, any more sickness, illness, any problems with monies. And it's so wonderfully beautiful. It's not a matter of, I wanted to say, that you're going to be bored. Because you are like the master Jesus Christ superstar of your own reality. And we all are sharing this abundant co-creative reality where now finally we can co-create together without the encumbrances and grave psychological problems that we're dealing with this schizogenic society that we have now. We're working ourselves through.
That sounds really cool. But have you met a Draconian personally?
I can't say that I have, whether maybe somebody was inhabited by one, possibly, but I
know some people that probably are inhabited by something evil for sure, but like this all sounds beautiful, but honestly, Tommy, it's just a story.
Well, based upon the idea that there is a war in space, the draconian element, this long time, millions of years takeover, invaded and occupied the planet, and it's what's running the planet through the Vatican and on down the line, pyramid top down, and so we're the slaves, and we're remembering to be our own gods and sovereign, and be able to stand alone individually so that we could come together collectively. But since we're divided to be conquered for separation, and they got everybody arguing through this whole system of argument, nobody could really have a meeting of the minds so that there could be some real substance for any meaning, for real bonding to take place, so we could have some harmony for unity and co-creating a new reality, because everybody's still talking about Illuminati news feeds. And
well, you do understand that it's hard to bond. Like I think you're a cool guy, Tommy, but I'm having a hard time bonding with you, even though I think you're cool and you call into the show a lot and you got some really impressive things to say. How can I know all this stuff you're saying is real other than just saying it?
Well,
tell me how I can know this stuff is real. How can I figure out a draconian or a reptilian is real, or meet one of these blue avians, or know that I'm ascending? How do I do this stuff other than just talking about it or letting someone else tell me that that's what's happening? Because that's pretty much how religion started, and I'm not too fond of listening to or advice from people that got all the answers that can't even produce the stuff they're talking about.
Well, yes, I understand. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm speaking my truth.
Sure.
You got to make your mind up like I make my mind up, and I just speak it. When I learn something new tomorrow, I can adjust and adapt to something new, and then I can speak that. But I say what I mean and mean what I say. I'm not selling anything. I'm not telling you or anyone what to think. These are to be incorporated for collaboration, for you and everybody else to add their own ideas to what I'm saying, just like I add my ideas to what you're saying.
I'm just trying to figure out
and then I call
where you're coming up with this stuff. That's all I'm trying to figure out.
I've learned a lot of things. I've learned a lot of things over a lot of years and connected a lot of dots and made up my own mind. And it's quite simple. However, I know it might sound a little like maybe I come off like I know everything, and absolutely not. I don't.
It sounds like Return of the Jedi.
But I've worked through a lot of my own things. I've worked through a lot of my own things, have come to conclusions that I can make my mind up, and I've been alone enough, had the time enough to connect a few dots, figure a few things out. It's not rocket science. I'm just a regular guy, believe me, and I'm just holding still, because what is happening now in our world with this Great Awakening and all the news coming out, there's more people, and like Terrence McKenna talked about, there's more novelty, more new things we never heard about, and we have to process all that novelty till it comes to some kind of tipping point, or a concrescence, an eschaton of concrescence, as he says, where it zeroes out. And the Mayans, 50 different ancient cultures talked about an ascension, and it's through the sun, through the highly charged particles that light up our new system when we transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And this is down the road, maybe I'm thinking, hoping 10 years, or in our lifetime, supposed to be, and it's a get ready period until then. Disclosure has to come out. We have to arrest all the impediment that is holding back truth-telling, so that we can finally learn the truth, learn the lies, all the lies of the truth about the lies, and then we can process that, and then we can get on our way about co-creating, and then get ready for a final upliftment. And that's why all the galactics are here. They know we're going to make it. They just want to see how, because it's so interesting, because of our diversity on the planet with so many different belief systems. So we've got to come together.
And you met some of these beings, though?
No. I don't need interact with all the UFO community and everything and go looking. I've got some on video, but it's all inside. Our own, we are the sun, the moon, and stars, each of us, and we've become so codependent and psychopathic and distracted from our own self with all this material world. And we sort of lost it. So this is what we're struggling to do, is to come back to center ourselves, so we have some peace of mind, so we can have certainty and actually make up our minds and be able to tell the truth. But we can't do it with the current system that is constantly lying. So that has to be removed.
New All right, Tommy, I got to go, brother. I got to take a break. I appreciate your call, though. Thank you so much.
Hey, me too. Thank you, Joe. Have a good day. Thanks, guys.
You heard it. It's the Draconians. I can't get to know these Draconians yet, Dan. You met one yet?
Spoke with one.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that. Draconians and the ascension process. But we'll be right back. I'm a little confused. I'll be right back.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass, because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shithead.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out! That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to getthetea.com And stock up on organic, non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here in the third hour with my co-host, the Reverend Dan Lopez. Interesting show. We just got through talking to Chairman of Hemi-Sync, Garrett Stevens. And then we're recapping some of this stuff, talking about experiences. Tommy called in, told us about the ascension process again. I can't wait to meet a blue avian or a draconian or maybe... What are all these other races? Do you know any more names of all these alien races?
Nope.
Is it just the draconians and the lizards?
I don't know. I don't know. There's a German book out there that's got like 250.
Some of you guys may roll your eyes, but one day they're going to come back into the fray. And Tommy's going to call in and say, I told you. They're here. I was right. And he'll be prepared. And the rest of us will have to hide in our bunkers, you know. Do you feel like a slave, Dan?
No. Not at all.
Could you be a slave that's unaware, though? You know, like a conscious slave that's unaware, doesn't really know you're a slave?
I don't. I have a hard enough time dealing with my own brain. I can't be dealing with no slave mentality.
That's just not a good mentality to have, I guess, right?
Nah, it's all victim stuff. That's why that's what creates that grass is greener paradigm. You start thinking other people have it better than you, and There's always somebody out there who would definitely trade places with you.
Well, back to the Monroe stuff, he talked about, like, when he left, he met these beings that he had known for his whole life. He even had a different name. I think it was called Ashanine or something like that. And he met beings that he knew his whole life. And one of them guys came down, decided they wanted to live on Earth and do the life experience of Earth. And then what happens is, according to the book, is they get caught up in it. Like, they forget where they came from. And they get so caught up in living life that they totally forget. And I think that's kind of how it's going to be. We're going to wake up and it'll be like a dream, because when you're in a dream state, especially a hardcore dream, you don't know that you have this other life, like that you got to pay bills and go to work, and you don't even really know about that life. And when you're in that dream, and then when you wake up, you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't real. I kind of think that's what life is going to be like. We're just going to wake up from a weird dream and be like, yeah, wow, I was a human? Really? That was cool. Well, I kind of want to go do that again. But I just, I don't want to deal with all these draconians and blue avians. Now, the thing about, I know what you guys are thinking, man, you're really riding Tommy hard, making fun of this stuff. It's just, look, it's a story that actually was told by somebody else a long time ago that somebody else is retelling, but I have never met any of these beings. And I'm not saying that aliens don't exist or anything, okay? I'm definitely not saying that. I just don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do when people call in and start talking about this stuff, because I just got through talking about Hemi-Sync, which I know is something cool. It's something scientifically proven that it works, and you can have these consciousness states. We're talking progress here. And then that happens. And I know as soon as the call
he was
starts,
going off of the conversation that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Obviously more so than anything else. And it was like I was saying earlier, it's important to him. He needed to say it, because otherwise he wouldn't have said it.
And some of you, I saw you chatting down there. As soon as he called in, you were like, oh no, I can't do it. Not again. But here's the thing. I think there might be a little truth to it. Maybe these draconians and stuff, maybe they're just metaphors. I want to read an event that did happen to somebody, though. Courtney, I hope I'm saying your name right, Courtney, who was kind enough to share this with us, kind of like Jenna and Jenna's dream. And I hope that we can get Courtney onto the show to talk about it. But Courtney says, I just want to say, first off, that I love your show and the guests you bring on and yourself. You bring on very intelligent, passionate people, and I'm learning so much, so thank you for that. I've gotten to know you a bit through listening to the episodes, and I know you said a couple times that you'd love to see an alien and have contact. Yes, I would, Courtney. I'd like to tell my story and to get your perspective on it. I'm not saying whether it happened 100% for a fact, but this is what I believe. I appreciate your honesty. It was about a month after Hurricane Irma came through southern Florida. I went to sleep like normal next to my boyfriend. I felt kind of a buzz, like that vibration, I guess is what she's talking about. Like you feel like you have a lot of energy, but your body is slowly falling asleep. That's interesting. I remember thinking about sleeping, and then I was sitting in a chair. I wasn't looking around. I didn't have my eyes open, but I could see the room in my mind, even though there wasn't much light. Well, I realize where I'm at, who's talking to me, and I freak out. I start flailing and asking about my boyfriend. I'm freaking out because I think they have done something to him, and I'm getting angry. They say they haven't and that he's fine. They, quote, they, let me out of the chair because I think I was strapped down. But they let me out. I walk out the door and make an immediate right. I go through a door, and I see a small room with one window and 3 beds and a couple of dresser-looking wooden things. As soon as I enter the room, I immediately see a person laying in a bed in front of me. Now, I go to wake this person up thinking it's my boyfriend, but it's not. I start to shake this person, but realize it's not my boyfriend. And then I turn, and behind me on the wall is another bed. Now I shake the person who is my boyfriend in this bed. I can tell in my mind that I feel like there were 3 of them, are standing in the doorway. And I'm freaking out, trying to wake him up, and they say, quote, "He's fine." Well, I notice that he seems to be fine, so I'll let him go and start to follow them back into the first room. Then I'll wake up in my bed. Now, I've only told my family about this, and they thought I was joking, but it felt real, as if I was really awake. It sounds like a dream to me, but if it was super vivid, maybe you went somewhere. But that's a teaser dream. Doesn't even really say who was in the bed that she was shaking. What do you think, Dan? That's a dream, right?
I honestly have to sit down with that for a bit before. Yeah, it does have the connotations of dreams. It's just a matter of getting in there and start ripping up the symbols and applying them, to be honest.
Now, if you're going to call into the show because somebody's calling the text line, you need to call 1-800-588-0335. Don't call the text line because it's for texting. Maybe it's Courtney, because that's pretty freaky. I haven't had a dream in a month, I think, or at least that I know of. Yeah. Like today, I slept over 8 hours, and I woke up and I was still drained, just as drained as I was before the dream started. I mean, before the sleep started.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on. Something's draining the energy out of me, but I love talking about these dreams. And maybe it wasn't a dream, but beds on the wall kind of tells me it was a dream. That's a giveaway to me. But didn't Garrett just said that you could be in the astral realm that's super vivid, like the experience I was talking about, and maybe a mirror that belongs somewhere is actually somewhere else. So maybe she was in the astral realm. Whoever's trying to call in, make sure you call 1-800-588-0335. That's the number to call.
I'm looking for her post.
Well, it wasn't you mean the one I just read?
Yes.
No, she sent that in a message.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's public now, so I hope she's cool with me telling it.
I'll listen to it again.
I mean, I assume when you send me this stuff that it's cool to talk about unless you say otherwise. So please, if you don't want me to say anything, just send a message and say, look, don't talk about that. I just want to keep it between you now. But if you're asking me from my perspective, it sounds like you were in between worlds, in between the astral realm and in between dreaming. As far as who they are, I think it's maybe your guides, like a lot of people talk about. Because you never really did explain what they look like or who they were or any characteristics about them other than they were talking to you. To me, that's your guides. But there's something going on there. And I'm not you, so there's probably a lot of symbolism. That's why you got to keep your own journal there. But I'm not you. But there's definitely something going on there with your boyfriend. If you're getting angry thinking that somebody's done something to him and you're shaking him trying to wake up, it's probably something you got to work out.
That's usually how it is. It's especially if you're in a current relationship with somebody and they're in your dream, it usually means you have issues that you need to work out with them. And usually what happens is that both of you and the other person are you. And so if you were looking at it from that aspect, you can kind of see it as, you're being told something. Like, wake up, you're actually getting some kind of information, and you need to refer to this so you can see how your own behavior is affecting the relationship.
It's really, really, I know it sounds like a pain in the ass, But it's really important to keep a dream journal to get answers like this. And a dream journal doesn't just mean dreams. If you have an out-of-body experience or you think you've had an astral travel experience or something, then write it down. Because it may be, and this has only happened to me once, but it may be a prophetic dream. Those are the trippiest things that has ever happened to me in dream state, when I had a dream and then it manifested later. But if you don't write it down, you're not going to know. So just a little tip there, I guess.
I've never had one.
A prophetic dream?
Nope. Thought I did. Many times it felt like I did, but no.
Symbolism's hard to dig out of a dream if you don't really study symbolism, though. Right? Let's see. Maybe is this Courtney?
Yeah.
I hope it is. This 708 area code? You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Dan.
Hey, Dan. We got two Dans. Dan speaking with Dan. What's up, Dan?
Hey, not too much. I just had a little story that is related to sort of like law of attraction and manifestation and all that.
All right.
So, yeah, it's actually, I know you had Gordon White as a guest.
Right.
On your show. And so I signed up for his members course, and that's where you pay the membership or whatever, and then he gives you, like, video courses.
Yeah, I signed up, too.
He had this little...
What's your name in there?
Oh, nice. So, yeah.
Or your username?
What's that?
Well, maybe you don't want to give that
My
out.
name's Shoop.
Okay.
I'd rather not give it out now that I think about it. But
right.
Anyways, so yeah, you would know from the Sigils course, he has like the Google slideshow thing.
Mm-hmm.
Were you familiar with that?
Yeah, I haven't taken the Sigils course yet, but you can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so he was just saying that you basically make a slideshow with pictures, and after a little like meditative period, you sort of flip through it, and you just do it on a regular basis to sort of manifest. And I forget the doctor's name that it's based off, but I got his audiobook on Audible.
Was it Dean Radin?
But it wasn't Dean Radin. It was he was like he was similar to Dean Radin, but it's called cycling.
Okay.
So you like cycle through these images or whatever, and then you end up, ideally you're supposed to manifest them, and he was using it for like healing purposes. But anyways, I was in the market for a new apartment here in Chicago, and basically I had a specific area of town that's right on the water, right on the Lake Michigan, and I just put a bunch of pictures together and everything, and I'm on a really tight budget, so it seemed pretty hopeless for a while.
Didn't seem like it would manifest due to the circumstances.
Yeah, but I basically just kept at it because it's a pretty easy system to do.
Okay.
Just cycling through the pictures every day. So anyways, I had one slide for the actual apartment and then another one for like a relationship goal. And basically today, after doing this for maybe 2 weeks, I found a place basically that's extremely affordable, and there's just weird connections with the pictures that I had that actually really line up. So like I mentioned that I had the relationship slide, and that I had like a picture of Venus, like Botticelli's Venus. And in this apartment, the guy has that painting on the wall.
Oh, wow.
And in the actual apartment slide, I had like a king-size bed with a black wooden frame. And this apartment, it's not a king-size bed, it's a twin-size bed because it's a small space. But basically the same bed frame, just as a twin, and it's right. It couldn't be more specific, this area that I was trying to get. So when I walked in there, I was kind of like,
you tripped out, didn't you?
What's that?
I bet that tripped you out, though, didn't it? Seeing all that stuff come to life like that.
I mean, I've been involved with this sort of esoteric, magical, chaos magic stuff for a few years, so I sort of just like laughed. It was like, hell yeah, this is working.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a weird feeling, but I feel like if you just roll with it, it sort of works better. But yeah, that literally happened today, so.
Well, that's cool, man. Congratulations on the apartment.
Yeah, thanks a lot, yeah. It was a crazy summer with all the astrology, with all the retrogrades and everything, and all of it activated my chart, so it's been crazy, and now that it's kind of over, it's like feeling like it was all worth it, so.
Well, there you go, folks. A chaos magic operation that Gordon White talks about that manifested what you desired. It's kind of weird how it comes through like that, though, right? In this button-down system in reality, but it still comes through. It lets you know that the universe is talking to you.
I feel like it's easier now than it ever has been to manifest if you just use the right tools. I mean, literally Google imaging and just dragging them into, it's really easy to just drag whatever you want and then flip through it on a daily basis if you have 10 minutes to meditate. And I should also mention that in that members forum, he's got like a prayer request, and I did put a prayer request up for the apartment. So I'm going to have to update that and say that it did work out.
Oh, man, that's cool. Well, listen, we only got a couple of minutes left here. I really appreciate your call, Dan. That's really cool to know. Thanks. I can't wait to start down that course.
Yeah, thanks. I just discovered the show from Grimerica, so I'm a new listener, but I really like it. And I like the whole Fringe network, too, so keep it up.
Oh, man, thank you very much. Thanks for your call, brother.
Yeah, have a good one, man.
You too. 503 area code. We got like 60 seconds here. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, this is Crow.
Hey, what's up, Crow?
Crow!
You can take us out,
what's up,
brother.
my brother? Hey, yeah, man, I got an experience for you, out of body, kind of a trip, real quick here. I went out of body, and I was up on the freeway, and there was a cop laying in the road there. He was looking up at me, pleading with me to get him help. So somehow, in the metaphysical realm or in your out-of-body experience, when you think it, you're there. I'm down to the police station, going in and out of the door, through it. And the lady behind the counter, dispatcher, she was kind of freaking out. She told she was looking like somebody's here, but she couldn't see what was going on. I zip back up on this freeway off-ramp, and he's, pleading with me, I need help. And then, eventually I came out of it, came back to my body, woke up. Watching the news the next day.
No way.
Same thing I saw, same thing I was there. The cop's face and everything's plastered all over the all over the darn TV. He had been shot and killed on this off-ramp on I-5. And it just blew me out of the water, man. Oh, God, this is probably 15 years ago.
That's a trip, brother. Whoa.
It really blew me away. I got a lot of crazy experiences, man. I've been through been to hell and back. Seen some crazy stuff, and it's kind of neat to be, being able to chat on your show and stuff, because I don't want people to think I'm a nut job, so I kind of feel like I can open up a little bit.
But hold on just a second, Crow. For those on the network, I got to say this stuff real quick, that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission, and music was by Chronox, Bundy, Kevin Mcleod, and Space Station. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. If you want to listen to the rest of what Crow's got to say, you have to check out the archives, though. Good night on the Fringe FM. But, yeah, that's a freaky thing, Crow. Hold on just a second.
Oh, yeah.
Let me let this go. Well, there's a first time for everything. I just wanted to keep this call. So, they'll have to listen on the archive to get what you're talking about. But this, so you witnessed the cop was asking for help, right? Like he needed help with the person that got shot?
Yes, the police officer had been shot. And he saw me, and I saw him. And I could feel the rain on me. I could feel the weather. I mean, everything. It was just weird, man. But it's not the first experience I've had like that. But just to see
how did you wind up entering
on the news?
How did you? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Crow. Forgive me. But I'm curious. How did you wind up entering into that state to begin with?
It comes and goes, man. It comes and goes. I practiced it when I was in my martial arts and got, fairly well with it, but it was more remote viewing than actual astral.
Right.
But there's times when I lay down to go to sleep, it just happens. And when it does happen, I used to get scared because I saw things, and sometimes leaving your body is a freaky experience. I'd slam back in, but anymore, when I get that, I hear a roar and a hum, and just vibrations, man, like crazy. I say, okay, let's go, let's do it, and bam, I'm out. I'm just, unfortunately for me, I don't stay in this realm. I go to these real weird, funky places, man.
Right.
Well, I hope you get to call in more, man, and tell us more about your experiences. I'd love to stay on here and talk about it, but, I'd be doing my buddy Ryan Gable a disservice. But I had to get the end of that story, though.
Well, that's cool, brother. Anytime, man. I chat enough on there. I got to call in,
Yeah, man. It's good to hear from you. And it really is.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys have a good one, man.
All right, you too. Thanks
you too,
for calling.
Crow.
Okay.
All
right, Dan. See you later. Bye.
Take care.
Man, that makes you wonder, like, could he have really, I know what you're thinking, like, could he have really helped that person? And man, he just saw it by accident,
Could he have helped that person? It really depends. Yeah. It really depends. I mean, you really got to read that book, man. And I'll send it to you. Right. But there are documented situations where people actually do go, and they go to a remote view, and they wind up doing freaking what's called bilocating. And what they can actually do is, like he was saying, is actually feel everything that's going on in the experience, and only the person who's half in and half out can even see them, and the only person who could see him in the police station would be someone who was sensitive.
That's crazy. Man, we got to stop this thing, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was. I thought you already did that. I'm sorry.
No. We're still going on Spreaker, and Ryan shows on. But he's not on Spreaker though. He's just on the network.
No, I know he's on the network.
We work as a team here, So I gotta. It's good to hear Crow's voice, though. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. We're probably gonna do this thing all over again, like we usually do. For those that hung out with us here on Spreaker. Good night, guys.